MJ, my man, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Omri. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, man. First of all, you look fantastic. You look like you're after a run in Malibu. Just
Thanks, bro.
ready for this podcast. You did some stretches, you did some cool stuff. Uh,
Yeah, stretch my mind, man. Yeah, for sure. Went for a little walk.
I mean, dude, I've reached out several weeks ago. Two things that kind of like were super interesting. So, first of all, kind of like we have a mutual friend that we both collaborated with, Ryan Breslow from Bold. He's back in Bold after, kind of like
Hiatus.
exiting, yeah, and then coming back. And he used to be famous for the 4 day work week, and now he's against it. Like, he's he
Yeah.
learned a lot of stuff. We've been working with him on his other project, love.com,
hmm
which is a very nice project. And yeah, and the second thing that I saw, man, that you were a rugby player in college.
hmm
And I was
Yes,
like,
I
dude,
was.
how does like an ex-rugby player get into this kind of industry, and just your branding and the way you've been kind of like balling on LinkedIn. I mean, it's you can see it's like authentic. You know what I mean? You're not like just one of those guys who are who are just gonna say the same fluffy piece of shit and
Right.
stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, I gotta bring him on the show and talk to him. So yeah, man. So tell us a little bit about like how you started. Like, what was the
Yeah.
roadmap like?
Well, thank you for your curiosity, first of all. And second of all, I'm really thankful that you know Ryan, and also love.com is super awesome. And I think there's a lot going on there. But just to give you like a little bit of background, I mean, rugby is probably the my favorite thing to bring up in business. I think rugby is like quintessential for like efficiency at scale. We could probably talk about rugby as business for like, more than an hour. But being scrappy in college is what, got me here was, okay, I'm not a scholarship athlete. I couldn't, no one was paying for my school but me. I had to work full time. Meanwhile, I was an all-American rugby player. you know, so it's like, what was my priorities? What was my priorities?
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to just ball, bro, for real. Like you just had to go to practice, you had to go, travel to Stanford, and come back on Monday and go work in a call center by
Damn.
20, and still hit quota, and still hit quota because I needed that money to go pay for like my rugby trips, right? So
Right.
like being mission based, I think has been huge for me. I grew up LDS. I grew up a member of the Mormon Church. I think mission-based business is so cool because you focus on one thing that's more than a goal. It's more than a goal. I'm really dedicated to excellent work, and that's what brought me to Ryan Breslow. What brought me to Bolt was Ryan has incredibly high standards. I'm sure you know that. High standards, and they're not goals. He has a mission to fill, and so being a part of like mission-based go-to-market and mission-based joint go-to-market in an agency world is like it's perfect niche for me. And going back to that rugby theory, it's like, bro, you just need to get on the field, know where your lane is,
Hmm.
and then execute in your lane because rugby is not like a game where it's like, oh, and this guy ran the whole game. It's like, no, bro, like he knew how to pass and he knew how to drive in his lane. And he showed up at the set pieces and did his job, Like he's not the guy that like, oh, I'm gonna do it my way. It's like, no, man, you're on a rugby field. You gotta and we score points together. So it's been excellent. It's been excellent. Just getting my chops in business. Just working with some incredible brands throughout the years. And incredible software companies. I have incredible teams that have taught me great things. So. Omri, it takes a village to build people, and I'm just thankful I've been in like the tech, e-commerce, fast-paced business world, so that I could contribute is really what I.
So like you live in Utah now? No, Salt Lake, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I live in
Yeah.
Utah. Yeah, Salt Lake's inside of there. Yeah.
Awesome. So and you grew up where?
So I grew up a lot of places, bro.
Hmm.
I
What was like the
was born.
main hometown for MJ?
Oh man, I was born in Salt Lake, but I lived in Seattle during the Microsoft boom.
Hmm.
So I was there for most of the 90s, and then I graduated high school from Mesa, Arizona, and then moved back to Utah after serving a Mormon mission in Australia for 2 years. So,
Hmm.
that's been me. And then in business, I've lived everywhere. I lived in Chicago, I've lived in New York, I've lived in LA. So I've really just been not like a nomad per se, but I guess I have been. I might as well just lean into that. I guess I've been like a digital
Yeah.
nomad for almost 8 years now.
So
Yeah,
so like rugby, because like rugby, like not a lot of Americans go and play rugby. They would just go play,
yeah.
football, So what was like, why did you go to rugby, not like try to be like a linebacker something like?
Yeah, it's funny. Well, I mean, to be completely transparent, I went to Utah Valley University when I got back from my mission. On my mission in Australia, I mean, rugby's more than a religion in Australia.
Right,
If we're talking about religions in Australia, it goes like rugby, beer, and then everything else.
right.
Maybe cricket,
Surfing, maybe
surfing.
surfing.
Yeah. But like
Blondes,
talking like
blondes, blondes is pretty much
yeah, but rugby was like the main religion in Australia, right? And so I came back from Australia after 2 years there, and I was like, dude, first of all, the school that I went to didn't have a football program. I grew up playing football. I was a running back and a
mm.
linebacker. And which is funny, those are like translatable skills into rugby,
Of course,
which is
just
something I
without the
guess.
helmets. Yeah.
Right. And so the one thing I had to learn was how to tackle. I broke my nose the first game because I was leading with my face, you know.
Mm.
But like those are the only things. Like I learned the rest of the game, but like translating those skills from football into rugby and it was I'd never looked back. I've really grown like a love and affinity for that sport, and even the philosophy of it. I think about I
What
think
is
like
the
soccer player.
what is the philosophy of rugby?
Rugby is a philosophy of team mentality as a mission, whereas like football is very individual based and very stat based. Rugby doesn't
Mm.
have stats really, besides like scoring.
Hmm.
So yeah, some people will kick the ball through after you score the try, which is where they press the ball down in the end zone or whatever. But like the main point of rugby is to understand your role, to
Hmm.
understand your responsibilities, and to be excellent inside of your lane, which in business I think has just given me a leg up because I'm like, oh, this is my role, this is my lane, this is our mission. Rather than like wanting to be like a stat man or like
Hmm.
someone that runs up their baseball card or like will want stats or owning their story in a way that doesn't benefit others. I think it's rugby. It taught me a lot about just winning together.
That's super interesting because I think soccer, like soccer is also like that, where there's not a
Yeah.
lot of statistics except like who's winning, right? Like like basically who's the team that's winning and who's scoring. And like
Yes.
American sports like baseball, football, basketball. I used to be a basketball player, by the way, a 6'2" point
Okay.
guard. I was so basketball is like there's like tons of stats, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone is like statified in a sense, and
Right.
like rugby or football, those are like more cultural sports where the
Right.
main thing is for the team to win, and there's not much of like individual statistics. So
Right.
I find that super interesting, and I'll take that to another thing. So like a
Sure.
thing that I know about you, MJ, and we talked about it, is that you have like this kind of like out of the box way of thinking about sales, about revenue, about basically scaling. And a lot of people, when you go in on like a call with them and they talk about their tactics, they go into like very digital tactics, advertising or like PR or getting
Correct.
this media coverage or doing that
Yeah.
or like SEO or geo or whatever. But with you, it's like, hey, what if we like create a post event like in this bar, which is like nobody knows about, and we'll put all the people who make the calls, all the prospects in one room and try to create kind of like an electrifying scenery for sales to happen. And I find that way very original. like how do you think about it? Like why did you like is how did you get attached or how did you get influenced to work that way? And like
Yeah.
how are the results like?
Yeah, so I started this go to market at Order Protection. So I was prior to that, I was at route.com and I was the top rep there. And they started putting us in little industries, and I was like running home and garden and stuff like this. And more as I was going up market and getting larger logos, credibility was needed, right? And they were like, hey, like we want to make this big decision. It's a big financial decision. We're talking about multiple percentages at checkout. Like this isn't some variable, small variable or like whatever. It's not a nascent technology category. We're talking about percentages to a CFO, right? And so I was like, oh, well, this isn't like just like a, hey, how are you sign and download the app. And so from there, or when I was at Route, I wasn't able to get these events out, actually. They wouldn't let me. I didn't get budget. There's a lot of, hard things that I wasn't able to do at Route that I made possible at Order Protection, right? And this was one of them, was I want to just be in the field all the time. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not going to cold call people and hopefully build trust with them, in 2022 after COVID and everything. No one wants to talk to a stranger right now about 2 or 3%, on their checkout and maybe getting a rev share back. They were like, I guess MJ, like, I guess. And so
Right.
I was like, I need to get in front of these people. And so like, even back when I was at Adobe, I was the rep that was like, I'm the rep that gets on the flight, like I'm the rep that moves to Chicago to close the business with American Medical Association and TransUnion and Foot Locker, and Cars.com. I was doing that. I'm meeting these people. I'm going up the elevator to the 45th floor. I'm closing the deal, and I'm walking out with the contract, And so the same thing, I was like, well, I'm going to bring this to e-commerce, let's get everybody in a room. All these buyers want to talk to each other anyway, so
Right.
why don't we get the darling of our portfolio there? So I focused on closing good logos, really solid logos that people respect. One of the first ones was Primitive, one of my favorite companies. You go to Zoomies in America, and it's the first table you go into Zoomies, and they've got like Yu-Gi-Oh shirts and fun, like just really fun collaboration skate style T-shirt. And so I got that brand. I closed them under Order Protection in like my first or second quarter as a chief sales officer, and we focused on Primitive. We focused on them, like who didn't know who they were, and how can they know about their success? And then we centered our events around excellence, like excellence. It's like, dude, these guys are awesome. Look at their brand. They make great decisions, and that's really what turned the market for me and the businesses that I worked with was like, wait, we have credibility in the room? Like the software is not the credibility, like everyone wants their software to be a credibility source or like some authority piece. And it's like, dude, get the hell out of here. Like what? You think like, you're going to do like a NetSuite like summit and everyone's going to be so stoked on NetSuite. Like, oh, I'm so glad I got this raw code in my custom NetSuite. Like, get the hell out of here, man. Like that's not what they want. They want to be like, oh, Primitive added this and they're getting how much back and they got this much lift in cart and their trust is going through the roof because, like it was just
Right.
a quick deal, but it just needed to be highlighted a certain way by the authority team, not by the company, not by the business. You need the
Right.
clients to sing for you. Like I'm not singing, like I let the clients sing, So I don't know. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that makes
That
sense. But that
that
was my
makes sense,
logic.
brother. That makes sense, and I have so much questions. So first of all, is this because you're like a people? You have this, this way of talking to people and connecting with people and doing that, through Zoom or events or seeing them in person. And probably you're better in person just because that's a skill set that not a lot of people, kind of like work on. Um,
Right.
but because people have it easier now. They just want to, hey, let's get on a Zoom call, etc. Right? And like,
Right.
let's not take that flight. And you did take lots of those flights. But I'm interested kind of like on the technical side. So you deal MJ with a lot of people, correct?
Yeah, I do. I work with
So
founders.
so how do you make sure that that you stay connected with everyone? Do you have like a process, like a
No.
productivity hack or something where you're like, I'm connecting to like I need to reach out to Omri today. I need to reach out to Ryan tomorrow. Like how does that work when you deal with so many people? Or is it just
It's
like it's a
it's
flow
priority.
thing?
Yeah, it's just priorities. Like you need to get good at your own discipline. I cancel people. People say canceling's over. I'm like, people have tried to cancel me, And like I'm not out here like, you know, trying to get everyone to like not understand, not like somebody. But for me, if someone is not professional, I cancel them right away. You know,
What do you mean? What do you mean by,
like
like, I know what you mean, but like, what do you mean? You know what I mean?
like oh, like if someone doesn't know how to keep up professionally, like if they're not delivering, if they're lying, if they're you know, faking something, if they pretended to have something, that's at an all-time high, right? You know, it's an all-time high right now, like fake, counterfeit, charlatan type business, like pretendonaires, opinionaires, you know, all these people, you know, vibe coding, whatever, AI fucking geniuses, funnel masters, everyone can get fucked, man. I don't give two fucks about it, you know. And so I've canceled a lot of people from like just even my business world where I'm like, dude, I don't want to do business with people like that. And I've made it perfectly clear. And so I think I've been better with who I want to work with, you know, and I've really honed in on like who's my ideal customer profile, what's the ideal founder that I want to work with, what's the ideal business that I want to work with, how can I help? Like knowing how I can help. And then I get into that rhythm, Omri. Like it's about rhythm for me because what people love the most about me is my rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
People love how I execute. Like my reputation is how I execute. And so when I show up, I'm here. I'm not over here trying to get feedback before I execute, and then they give me feedback. And if it's good, I keep going. You know,
Right.
I'm not over
I,
here like, oh, hey, like, how do you want me to jump into this double dutch game of moving ropes in business? Like, you don't just pander your way into business. You have to jump in, you know,
love
and
that.
you
Dude, I
find it.
love that.
You find it. Yeah.
How do you get into rhythm? Like, what do you do? Like, is
Oh,
it?
yeah, that's a lifelong thing. But like, I mean, there's some hacks. I mean, I meditate. I go for a walk. You know, I think spirituality is actually so important, and people don't talk about that enough. I really don't like working with people that aren't spiritual. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
saying like you need to be in a religion, but like I work with spiritual people. You know, like I work with people where I'm like, dude, the heavens are opening, dude. We're running fast. You know, like let's go, you know? And so understanding your own divine timing, I think, is like a lifelong thing. But like, you know, getting grounded is really important. You know, working with massive, like people, like these are some of the biggest people and names in the world, bro, you know, that change the world, that change commerce. And what, like, you know, you can't get an ego the size of Mount Everest while you're doing it, you know, like that's going to get old fast and you're not going to stay in the room. So,
Hmm.
I think ego maintenance is so critical when it comes to just like founder-led business. Like I'm a founder, I work with founders. My ego could get bruised every second of every day. I
Hmm.
could get cut off left or right. I could, you know, try to lord my experience over people. You know, there's so many ways you can lose business just by having an ego. So really for me, I think it's just been getting into reality, dog. You know, like that, like that's like your reputation now is how realistic, you know, and people don't even really want you to be like so realistic that it's boring. They just want you to understand what gravity is for yourself, you know, like really getting down to your own bare minimum of like who you are, what you do. Like that's the biggest part of even just branding in general, like what I focus on. So if I don't have a pulse on reality, I don't have any place in a
Hmm.
room.
That's super fascinating. Is there like any specific book that influenced you? You know, the
Mm.
Bible.
Yeah, the Bible's great. I like both the Old and New Testament. And, you know, my name is Matthew James, so my parents gave me a calling card to the New Testament. But Bible's excellent. Carl Jung says that we all have to read the Bible because that's our reality. And I think that's very true. You know, today, if we really want to talk about religious wars and everything else, it's like, bro,
Mhm.
you know, the Bible's pinnacle to, I think, it just kind of a reality. But like, no, I would say like, just follow your curiosity. I think trusting your curiosity is really important. Understanding what curiosity is, I think, is really important. Because like I think a lot of people like are afraid to be curious or think that curiosity is childish, or it's not effective. When really like I live in curiosity and curiosity gives me business. Like
Right.
I go get curious with Ryan Breslow. I go get curious with, you know, my other clients. And bro, that gives me a proposal, you know? So I would say like being obsessed with learning is really important. Just being like a self-taught learner is always important. But like, I mean, I love Aristotle.
You
Like
mentioned
I,
you mentioned like Carl Jung. Like
yeah,
who else are like clinical psychologists or philosophers that have that you kind of read or like?
yeah. I would
I read a
say
lot of
like,
philosophy, so I'm super interested on what you like.
yeah, I think Aristotle's the GOAT. I think there's no way you could ever beat Aristotle. I think that he just was the ultimate like summarizer, and also
Mm.
he added his own flair. Like he was able to really like bring Plato forward and Socrates forward in his own way, and I really love Aristotle. Like I think he influenced Christ personally. So like I like looking at those like kind of the hierarchy and also like the chain of influence through philosophy. So I look at like those patterns, and then man, I've been actually studying the Republic, Plato's Republic recently because
Plato.
of all the turns in policy and politics right now. But I actually love Machiavelli. It's
The
funny to say that
Prince.
while you're smiling. Yeah, like the Prince, I think is just like every founder needs like
100%. I keep saying that you need to read there's if you're a founder you should read like 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
yeah.
You should read The Prince by Machiavelli. You should
Yeah.
probably read some Nietzsche as well. Like
Yeah, I
there's
love Nietzsche. Like Nietzsche, you need to go into him. I think it's good to see how philosophy has influenced the world and and why it became weaponized and why people misunderstood it. I think there's so much to take from that. So yeah, I'd say Carl Jung, Nietzsche, Aristotle, Jesus. Man, I like the Torah. I think it's cool. I actually use ChatGPT to read the Torah and I translate it into English and awesome. So like I don't know. I think that you can learn out of the best books, and that's what my parents taught me growing up was like you can learn out of the best. And I probably took that farther than my mom wanted me to, but I'm really happy I did.
That's awesome, man. Listen, I have to jump to another call, but
You're
just
good.
MJ was super fun, man, talking to you, chatting, getting to know you, and yeah, let's talk. Let's talk later on.
Yeah, for sure, brother. And congratulations with your wins, and thanks for taking some time. And I'm looking forward to maybe asking you more questions.
100%, man. Percent. Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, all the best. Have a good